Alright, Yellowjackets fans, episode 9, the finale of season 2, has answered some questions while having us ask about a dozen more. Satisfying, but I cannot wait. I mean, who knows how long until a season 3 and answers to these cliffhangers are actually revealed. Anyway, welcome back to Heavy Spoilers, your home for spoilers that are heavy, and in this video we're going to be discussing everything in Yellowjackets episode 9 in season 2, full story breakdown, callbacks, strange references and parallels, and some theories on where or what season 3 may have in store for us. So if you enjoyed this video, hitting that like button is much appreciated, and it helps the channel, and subscribe to Heavy Spoilers to stay up to date on all of our latest breakdowns. With all of that out of the way, thank you so much for clicking this. I'm your host, Jared. Now let's get into Yellowjackets episode 9. Quick aside, we skipped episode 8 last week, sorry about that. I know a lot of you were missing it, but a quick breakdown of episode 8 basically saw all of the Yellowjackets in the past dealing with hallucinations because of starvation, which was teased by Misty in episode 7.
Oh, look, I have some bait. Oh. I've been kind of hoarding food in case they decide to enforce calorie restriction to induce out-of-body experiences. My blood sugar can't handle that.
Okay.
These hallucinations drove them to sacrifice someone via the card game that we had theorized, with Natalie drawing the Queen of Hearts and being the mark. But in the end, when Javi tried to save Natalie from the others, he instead became the sacrifice, as all stood by and watched right where the moose went under the water as well. This could have been how the wilderness actually chooses. Javi was going to hide Natalie in his hidey hole, which is the same place that Coach Scott had found an underground warm shelter. Baby, we had theorized this. In present day, the police search Jeff and Shauna's house. All of the Yellowjackets figure out basically that Jeff's blackmailing set off a chain reaction to bring them all together. Basically, Adam Martin, Walter, Jessica Roberts, all of them stem from this one decision of Jeff's. With the episode ending with Lottie suggesting that the wilderness demands a sacrifice and presents a choice of 6 different cups, aka Russian roulette style, with one of them containing a lethal dose for one of the women to take. The ironic thing is, almost everything we know so far can be chalked up as science, coincidence, there's a reason behind it, rather than the supernatural elements that are now taking a back seat. Okay, now that that is all out of the way, let's get into episode 9, and to be honest, this was a bit rushed and underwhelming in my opinion. Yes, there are some chilling moments, twists and turns, but ultimately left me like, huh? That's it? But jumping into the past, the main thing that happens is the remaining Yellowjackets devouring Javi's body to survive. All of these scenes are almost like a herd of animals rather than people, carrying Javi back to the camp like a deer. Shauna carves him up into Javi nuggets, serves him up, and all of them frantically toss pieces into the cast iron. During this, there are also a few things of note, first being Shauna pulling the mask over her eyes like see no evil as an excuse to avoid her, quote, bad behavior, and Van's persuasion of let Javi save you speech to Travis changed his mentality to survive as he bites Javi's heart before the others in a sign that the two will always be together, and Javi's death needed to happen, as kind of hinted by the lyrics and meaning of the song Killing Moon that later plays. The other big thing in the wilderness is discovering more of why Lottie is so messed up in present day. She never asked for the power of the group, essentially the wilderness chose her, and now she can't hear it anymore, which explains why her decision-making is kind of twisted by Misty throughout these last couple episodes. She didn't want to eat Javi, she didn't want the group to eat Javi, but went through it anyway. And in doing so, she transfers this power to the new, quote, Queen Bee of Natalie. Natalie avoided death, and this is because the wilderness wanted her alive. The group accepts this, almost praising her like a deity like they did with Lottie, even with Natalie placing her hand on Travis's chest, much like Lottie did at the beginning of this season. So leading into season 3, Natalie is calling the shots, but not without Shauna potentially picking at her every single decision because of her jealousy that we see kind of expressed in the journal writings towards the end. The main thing in present day is the reenactment of the ritual hunt from the wilderness rather than the Russian roulette Kool-Aid drink idea Lottie initially suggested the group partake in. The funny thing is, Lottie is almost like a child wanting the hunt, with the others kind of being the parents or taking on the parent role, going along with the charade like a kid begging for candy at the candy store. Like, yes, Lottie, we will have your sacrificial hunt to appease your imaginary wilderness friends, don't worry, and then we'll get ice cream afterwards. Lottie's case is obvious. She slowly lost her mind from the opening of this season until now. But the other member that subtly is pulling the strings, also wanting the hunt, is Van. There's some sly looks, comments, and decisions she makes that allows the hunt to continue, and it's because deep down she still believes in the wilderness, much like Lottie. If the hunt goes off without a hitch, maybe, just maybe, her cancer will be healed, which we have a little theory about that later. The six of them prepare for the hunt, gathering weapons, masks, prepping the deck of cards for the group. Around the fire, I'm pretty sure Shauna asked to shuffle the deck further, was her way of trying to stack the deck in order to not pull the queen, but Van calls her out saying that's enough. So I'm curious if something similar to this has happened in the past, and we'll maybe see that in a future season. Anyway, the cards are picked, resulting in Shauna being the one to pull the queen. I thought that this was honestly so out of character for everyone because instantly they changed into like hunt mode, like killer mode, the craziness of the wilderness. Who knows, maybe, and that's a big maybe, the wilderness does in fact have power over all of them. But through a series of hiccups, Callie steps in, then Lisa, resulting in Misty accidentally stabbing Natalie with a syringe, ending her life. This is especially traumatic for Misty because this is now the second time she's unfortunately killed her, quote, best friend. So did the wilderness choose, or is this all just a bunch of mumbo jumbo? Because both times we've seen the hunts like this, whoever draws the queen isn't the one who is sacrificed in the end of things. The hunt is a complete facade for potentially something greater. There's also the idea that the wilderness was robbed of Natalie 25 years ago and had always been tormenting her until it finally got what it wanted. This would explain Natalie's drug use, trying to end her own life, and finally perishing to Misty. Honestly, at this point in the series, I'm convinced that there is not, and there never has been, any supernatural elements at all. Everything can be explained away via science, conditions, mental health issues, and past trauma. Trauma is at the core of this series. I think we're going to slowly realize that this show is really about the struggle of life and how things can stick with you throughout your entire life as friendships and relationships crumble, and the slow toll of daily life can turn you from a relatively bright, bubbly, positive person into something begging and asking for more, unhappy with your current situation, wishing life was different. And again, I could easily be wrong, so let me know in the comments if you think most of what we've seen is based in reality and it choosing is solely the decisions a person makes in life, leading to undesirable and even traumatic results. Natalie's last kind of visions or whatever mirrors that of Jackie's from the end of season 1, but here adult Nat is on an empty plane appearing to go through turbulence. This is supposed to resemble Natalie in a purgatory-like setting when she mentions that she's not supposed to be there, something similar that Laura Lee said to Lottie earlier this season.
I think we need to get you out of here. You have to go. Go! Go!
I'm not supposed to be here. This is exactly where we belong.
Natalie also sees a young Javi and a young Lottie ushering her into the afterlife, her final resting place. Though Natalie has kind of toyed with this a couple of times in this series, once with her OD with Travis, and another with the visions with Lottie that she helped her see, it's finally her time to pass on. And I want to say that this was teased earlier in the season with her visions with Lottie, as we have this image of an adult Natalie wearing all white, potentially symbolizing her in heaven. So this might be a hint or a tease at future Yellowjackets if we see this again. In the end, Natalie made up for her not saving Javi, this time being on the opposite side of things, saving Lisa, allowing her dormant empathy to get the best of her. Walter is by far my favorite thread of this episode, arriving as Misty's knight in shining armor and saves the day by, let me double check my notes, killing Kevin and blackmailing Jay. Holy sh**. Yeah, Walter wasn't necessarily the clean citizen detective some of us thought he was, but rather cut from the same cloth as Misty, being a borderline serial killer. And looking back, though, there were clear signs of this present.
I assume you run live scan clearances on all your hires?
I can assure our caregivers are the very best of the best.
Maybe I'm just a bored Moriarty looking for his Sherlock.
I don't think that you understand the rules of your own game.
There's only ever one rule. Win.
Serial killers love puzzles. It's a documented fact, Kelly.
Him and Misty are surprisingly made for one another in a demented way. That's why he wanted to track her down in the first place. He had an inkling she was behind the Adam Martin case and admired her work as a fellow citizen detective. Both were probably members of that subreddit to make sure that no one was actually sniffing on their trails. Heck, the two even pull similar moves, going into acting mode when Kevin first enters the room, much like Misty in the wilderness when questioned about Crystal's disappearance, poisoning Kevin like Misty poisoned Jessica Roberts with the cigarette in season 1, and singing musical songs. Here, Walter sings Send in the Clowns, which is irony to the max because in the musical, A Little Night Music, it's used as a bit of a distraction for the audience, much like Walter is doing here, but also literally referring to Kevin and the police as clowns. Walter is a cold-blooded killer, as we can see here, shooting Kevin in the trunk and setting up Jay, but it's almost scarier how upbeat he is when telling Jay the narrative, again putting on a performance, telling Jay he needs more yes-ands like in improv. Either way, it looks like Walter thought of every single angle and is essentially a clone of Misty. I had no clue he would swoop in and save the day, but, well, I guess in an unconventional way of saving the day. The ending is a bittersweet farewell to Natalie as Radiohead's Street Spirit plays, which is a song about being unable to contain all of the hopelessness one senses at trying to envision the totality of death and the ultimate uselessness of existence, which we see here from several of the Yellowjacket members. Misty is devastated, admitting to Walter that she killed her best friend. This, of course, alluding to Natalie, but also finally admitting to someone else, along with herself, that she killed her best friend, Crystal, back in the wilderness, something that she had been, hiding and it had been eating at her for years that she finally admits. Lottie is sent off to another mental facility to get help for whatever delusion she's still suffering from, but the interesting thing is her admitting that they give the wilderness what it wanted and it is pleased. Now, the thing is that there's far more to this than solely Natalie. Yes, Natalie was the original one who drew the Queen of Hearts and is now sacrificed what the wilderness, wanted and finally got her. But with the camera panning over to Callie and even Lottie being a bit surprised by meeting her after being shot by her, I think the wilderness has a hold on Callie too now. Something else the wilderness wanted, Shauna's baby, once again. So I can see Callie now spiraling into madness, much like Shauna. Heck, she almost used the stolen gun on Jay, so if she follows even a small path of Shauna's, things are going to get dark for her real quick. But the thing of note here is Lottie mentioning the wilderness is happy and they'll see.
We gave it what it wanted. It is pleased with us. You'll see.
Lottie mentioned this while looking directly at Van, and I'm betting that in season 3, we're going to find out that Van's cancer is going to be in remission. Again, the wilderness doesn't play, the game of one for you, one for me, but with it being fulfilled, it's not going to allow another Yellowjacket to perish until it is ready. So expect this revelation to be in the coming seasons. I'm assuming season 3, but we'll find out, and I'm curious if this will also curb Ty's sleepwalking, Misty's loneliness, and Shauna's family structure that is until it needs to be satisfied again. Back in the wilderness, we catch Shauna journaling until it is quickly turned into panic as the cabin is on fire with all of the girls locked inside. Luckily, they all escape, grabbing supplies on the way out, but it is the thick of winter and they have nowhere to stay or any sort of shelter. Obviously, this was Coach Scott's dealings, as we saw him sneaking around, with the matches, grabbing supplies, and hiding in Javi's hidey hole. As the girls watch the cabin burn, Killing Moon by Echo and the Bunnymen plays, which is a song about everything from birth to death to eternity and God, whatever it is, and the eternal battle between fate and the human will, hinting at no matter what the wilderness and life is going to throw at them, the girls are going to find a will and means to survive. The finale gives us a bevy of ways Season 3 could go and potential theories to stew on, but no doubt Jay is going to be on a personal vendetta against Shauna, Jeff, basically all of the Yellowjackets. We've seen that he has a knack for guerrilla detective work, so I'm curious if he'll somehow turn someone, or maybe a new player knowing of the Yellowjackets' past will turn up. As for the wilderness, with Natalie now in charge, I have a feeling that she'll put out a hunt order on Coach Scott. I mean, the Yellowjackets aren't dumb. Someone started the fire, Coach Scott is missing. Oh, yeah, it's gotta be him. Natalie did talk to him saying that he doesn't belong here in the wilderness because he was of pure heart. He hadn't killed and he hadn't eaten any of the other members, but with Natalie being elected as the new leader, the devilish smirk on her face tells me that she's already switched her mentality. She's been the one who's taken restraint and sympathy, but with power now, that's going to be thrown out the window, and Coach Scott is enemy number one. We know he's hiding out in Javi's cave, but with the brief glimpse of what looks like his body being eaten in episode 3 of this season, I have a feeling that Natalie and the other Yellowjackets will get their wish, eating Coach Scott to survive the second winter. Yes, the second one, so Coach Scott will still, he still has a while to survive. Speaking of power and leadership, Shauna's journaling is a massive clue as to her thoughts of this new leadership, and she does not like it. So I'm guessing that every season the power dynamic is going to switch or shift somehow from Lottie to Natalie to maybe some others in between, but ultimately is going to end with Shauna being the Antler Queen. She's been the most unhinged in both the past and present, and this journaling is a huge red flag of her jealousy, much like she essentially stole Jackie's entire life. So I'm throwing big money, people, on Shauna being the ringleader of it all, baby. And lastly, that smoke signal from the cabin burning. Someone somewhere is got to see this, right? I understand that they're in the thick of the Canadian wilderness, but the event seems to be a turning point for someone to stumble upon their location. Again, the cabin is now burnt. I'm curious where they're going to actually take shelter, maybe going back to the plane crash, and someone is bound to see this in the distance and could be their first interaction with the outside world. But if this happens, something bad is going to also happen with this. Hell, maybe some park rangers, campers, hikers, I don't know, locate them, but then the Yellowjackets eat them. I don't know, man. These teens have been cray-cray this season. But stay tuned, because early next week, we're going to drop a whole video on theories, questions, and everything that we hope is answered in Season 3. So yeah, get ready for that. Overall, I would say that Season 2 was a thrill ride of way more weird, obscure homages and references than Season 1, and I kind of liked it, and I kind of didn't. Like, Season 2 had higher highs than Season 1, in my opinion. Shauna's whole trippy baby episode, Crystal's midsummer fall from the cliff, and Javi reappearing only to disappear into the Yellowjackets' bellies, just to name a few. But the lows were far lower than Season 1's. I personally felt like a lot of the middle of this season was drawn out longer than it could have been, and the whole last 2 episodes were a rush of this, that, bam, boom, and done. Sure, we did get some answers, but we're given far more questions in the process. So not only are the mysteries and questions from Season 1 still present, but we have a bevy of Season 2 questions tacked on top of those. I think the acting and chemistry this time around was far better, though. Again, Sophie Nelise's acting was superb. The range of depression from the baby episode ranging all the way to the ferocity of her beating Lottie's ass. Getting all of the surviving Yellowjackets together in present day was something I was looking forward to, and the dynamic amongst them mirrored that of what we've kind of seen in the wilderness, and what had played out really painted a great kind of like tension-filled, bittersweet meeting. I'd give this season a 7 out of 10 at the end of the day. The showrunners absolutely know how to keep people invested with small little breadcrumbs, but if season 3 doesn't start to fill in some of these massive blanks and answer questions, it could just be a mundane journey through strangeness until a piece or two fall into place, giving the viewers the much bigger picture. I thoroughly enjoyed this season with all of the theories and headcanon, but chasing the carrot can only get you so far, you know? Now, I'm sure you, me, everyone is clamoring for a season 3 after everything in this episode. Like answers. Hello? I need some answers, people. So when should we expect a season 3 of Yellowjackets? Well, I have some good news and some bad news for all of you fans out there. Starting with the good, Season 3 has been greenlit, and it was greenlit all the way back in December, with the show being said to be a total of 5 seasons. So more Yellowjackets is definitely on the way. But here comes the bad news. After only 1 day of production on Season 3, they had to pack things up and halt because of the WGA writer strike that is currently in progress. Showrunner and co-creator of Yellowjackets, Ashley Lyle, tweeted out an update along with her support for the WGA writer's strike, saying, "Well, we had exactly 1 day in the Yellowjackets Season 3 writer's room. It was amazing and creatively invigorating and so much fun, and I'm very excited to get back to it as soon as the WGA gets a fair deal. #Union Strong." Of course, writers should be treated fairly, but this is a blow to the Yellowjackets fans expecting a speedy return to the wilderness. The previous WGA strike took place in late 2007 and concluded in 2008, lasting roughly 3 months. So if that is any indication as to this present strike, Season 3's wait will be much longer than the year and 2 months wait that there was between Season 1 and Season 2. That is everything for Yellowjackets Season 2 finale, the weird, gruesome, thrilling, all of it. Obviously, there are loads of unanswered questions and a bevy of theories we want to dig more into, so stay tuned because early next week, we'll have a full video diving into all of that, so stay tuned. Anyway, last month we ran a competition giving away 3 copies of the Quantum Mania Steelbook, and the winners of that are on screen right now, so if that's you, message us on Twitter at Heavy Spoilers. If you want to support the channel for as little as 99 cents a month, then click the join button below, and as a thank you, you'll get early access to videos every single week, just super secret stuff. We also have our merch store over at zeroedition.com, which sells a lot of nerdy-inspired t-shirts, hats, and all sorts of things. We've currently launched our Peacemaker and Drax-inspired t-shirt, so if you head over there right now, you do us some good, you help us out, then the links are in the description. And of course, if you want something else to watch, be sure to check out some of our other cool videos right over there. Classic movie breakdowns are ramping up, so stay tuned. And with all of that out of the way, thank you so much for sitting through this video, for sticking along for this Yellowjackets coverage and journey. I've been your host, Jared. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and peace.